I wanted to welcome everybody to our weekly Monday afternoon church service. Thank you to Restream for allowing you to watch this on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, different places all at the same time. The name of our group is Scriptural Salvation Baptist Tabernacle. Welcome to my living room. To my left on the floor, I have Richard. My wife has the volume turned on. At least I know it's coming through. Steve, I have Paul. To my right is Grace. Hannah's getting herself ready to come in and sit down, but she's here. Jay's off in the corner. My wife Liz and the dog Sweetheart is being a good girl and staying on her bed, isn't she?
Sorry.
Yes, she is. All right, get yourself all set up, honey. We are going to go ahead and get started with our first song by Cutlass called I Lift My Eyes Up. This is the last service here in November. It feels like yesterday I was just going, I hope everybody has a happy Halloween, and tomorrow or the day after is December.
You mean happy Thanksgiving?
No, I mean happy Halloween. Like, it felt like the month went that. I don't mean Thanksgiving, I promise you. Don't try to tell me what I think I mean. All right. I mean, it went that fast. It was Thanksgiving. We were at the thing, and then the very next day,
The thing.
with Jay with the marching band.
Thanksgiving.
No, that was Halloween.
Yeah.
And the very next day,
Thanksgiving.
no, I did not. She tried to tell me Thanksgiving. I said I meant Halloween. It feels like the one day we were at the thing with Jay. So catch up. No, you're wrong.
You said Thanksgiving.
I did not. I never
You
meant.
did. Yes, you did. I heard you.
You're full of bull.
You said Thanksgiving.
Can we continue?
No, we can't.
We're gonna go ahead. Well, like I said, the name of our group, Scriptural Salvation Baptist Tabernacle. Before we know it, it'll be Christmas and Easter, and then next year at this time, and with how fast the weeks are going. And believe it or not, there are only a few weeks until Christmas anyway. So, so we will.
School days until Christmas break.
And so we will go ahead and get started with our first song.
You want to sing this?
All right.
Do you want to sing this?
Where does my help come from? My help comes from you, maker of heaven, creator of the earth. Oh, how I need you, Lord. You are my only hope. You're my only friend. So I will wait for you to come and rescue me. Come and give me life. I lift my eyes up unto the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from you, maker of heaven, creator of the earth. Oh, how I need you, Lord. You are my only hope. You're my only friend. So I will wait for you to come and rescue me. Where does my help come from? Oh, how I need you, Lord. You are my only hope. You're my only word. So I will wait for you to come and rescue me. Come and give me life. Oh, how I need you, Lord. You are my only hope. You're my only friend. So I will wait for you to come and rescue me. Come and give me life.
Right. Honestly, I have no idea what in the world you were trying to ask me. But I'm over here trying to conduct the song, and Chris is trying to get me to do something, and I connected to the stream, and it was wrong. I don't know what's going on. Are you on? Are you seeing it?
Yes, but that's not what I wanted. But it's
Go
okay.
talk to your mother about it. Okay. All right, we're going to keep moving along and get our actual lesson started. And is our fourth lesson in Genesis.
Yeah, this is the fourth lesson.
Thanks, Paul.
That's what he just said.
Problem.
Turn that down a little bit, Grace. Okay, are we ready?
I'm sure watch this.
All right. Then we're going to be
So,
continuing on with the 12 shortest Psalms in the Bible. With Psalm number 93. The Lord reigns. He is robed in majesty. The Lord is robed. He has put on strength as his belt. Yes, the world is established. It shall never be moved. Your throne is established from of old. You are from everlasting. The floods have lifted up, O Lord. The floods have lifted up their voice. The floods lift up their roaring. Mightier than the thunders of many waters, mightier than the waves of the sea. The Lord on high is mighty. Your decrees are very trustworthy. Holiness befits your house, O Lord, forevermore. Forevermore again. There it is.
Forevermore.
Make haste, O God, to deliver me. O Lord, make haste to help me. Let them be put to shame and confusion who seek my life. Let them be turned back and brought to dishonor who delight in my hurt. Let them turn back because of their shame. Who says, aha, may all who seek you rejoice and be glad in you. May those who love your salvation and say nevermore. Thank you. Evermore. God is great, but I am poor and needy. Hasten to me. Oh God, you are my help and my deceiver.
No,
Oh Lord.
No, Richard. The Lord's your deliverer, not your deceiver.
Deliverer. Oh Lord, do not delay.
Different role. Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah.
Richard, if your God is the deceiver, you're following the wrong one.
Yeah. We're okay. What?
Those who trust in the Lord are like Mount Zion, which cannot be moved, but abides forever. As the mountains surround Jerusalem, so the Lord surrounds his people, from this time forth and forevermore.
Forevermore.
For the scepter of wickedness shall not rest on the land allotted to the righteous, lest the righteous stretch out their hands to do wrong. Do good, O Lord, to those who are good, and to those who are upright in their hearts. But those who turn aside to their crooked ways, the Lord will lead away with evildoers. Peace be upon Israel.
Oh, I think going down by age.
Think so?
Yes.
Paul, or Richard?
Nevermore.
Nevermore.
The deceiver. Okay. Paul, all right. Now stand still because there's all kinds of stuff in your way. Don't jump around. Don't squirm.
O Lord, who shall
Sojourn.
sojourn in your tent.
Stand still. Stop.
Okay, Paul.
Sorry, be a soldier.
Okay.
Like this.
No. All right.
Who
Soldiers.
shall dwell on your holy hill?
Yep.
He who walks
Paul, you're getting too close.
Paul, step back. Paul, what are you doing? Stand still. He who walks blamelessly.
blamelessly and does what's right is right and speaks truth in his heart. Who does not
Slender.
slander with his tongue, does no evil to his neighbor, nor take up
A reproach.
a reproach against his friend. In those eyes, a vile person is
Despised.
devised. But who honors those who fear the Lord, who swears to his own heart, it does not change. Who does not put out his money at innocent
Interest.
it does not take a
Bribe.
against the
Innocent.
He who does these things shall never be moved.
Okay. We gotta work on getting you to stand still.
I have ears. Unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the watchman stays awake in vain. It is in vain that you rise up early and go late to rest, eating the bread of anxious toil. For he gives to his beloved sleep. Behold, children are a heritage from the Lord. The fruit of the womb, a reward likes awards, and the hand of a warrior are the children of one's youth. Blessed is the man who fills his quiver with them. He shall not be put to shame when he speaks with his enemies in the gate.
Okay, that's pretty good. And
Dictate me.
Yep.
O God, and defend my cause against an ungodly people. From the deceitful and unjust man deliver me. For you are the God in whom I take refuge. Why have you rejected me? Why do I go about mourning because of the... Why is it spelled like that?
mourning, because that's when you're sad, you mourn.
Like
Yep. So this isn't early in the morning. This is you're in a state of mourning. You're sad.
Why do I go about mourning? Because of the oppression of the enemy. Send out your light and your truth. Let them lead me. Let them bring me to your holy hill and to your dwelling. Then I will go to the altar of God, to God, my exceeding joy, and I will praise you with the lyre.
Yep.
O God, my God, why are you cast down, O my soul, and why are you in turmoil
Yep.
within me? Hope in God, for I shall again praise him, my salvation and my God.
Yes. Yeah. That was pretty good. All right. And now, like we normally do on the last Monday of the month, we're going to have a
Communion.
communion.
Oh yeah, communion.
And we know what communion is. It's where we get to eat bread and drink grape juice, right?
Yes. I love grape juice.
But it has
And
a
wine.
reason behind it,
Yep.
right? Okay.
Because it's God's, Jesus' blood, and
Jesus'
Not
body.
literally, it's just a remembrance of him.
yeah,
But of his blood and body, right?
and his body food.
All right. So, for I received from the Lord what I have also delivered to you, that the Lord Jesus, on the night when he was betrayed, took the bread. Now we just use these little loaves of flatbread. Here.
Oh.
He took the bread.
Oh, you're
Share it,
Ah. See?
but don't eat it.
Don't eat it.
Gotta wait. This time I made sure it wasn't piping hot when I went to pick it up.
It's happy holidays.
I don't mind if it's hot.
Well, I do because I have to pick it up and rip it. So,
I like eating it when it's hot.
Nom,
and it
nom,
doesn't
nom.
feel hot for me.
well,
Hey,
because
Grace, don't do
I
that.
didn't want to burn my
I'm
fingers
baking
off.
it.
Still, don't.
So, he
See,
took the
that's
bread,
what I'm doing.
and when he had given thanks, he broke it and said, "This is my body, which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me." And that's when we eat it. Flatbread.
My favorite. Good.
In the same way, also, he took the cup after supper, saying, so taking the cup, I got to pass it around. We have.
One cup and pass it around.
Sure.
I don't want wine.
You got it?
I want grape juice.
Don't drink it yet.
I'm too young.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Richard, why don't you try the wine?
Oh,
Try
yes.
it.
No.
No, Richard, not right
You
now.
are 15. And
Let's-
you're saying he's saying
He
it
doesn't
like he's
have
too
to
young.
have it.
Yes.
No, I mean he's saying like he's.
I know those of you out in
I do
the
not.
reaches of the internet, we are drinking a Liberty Creek Cabernet blend. We've had it before. It's a red wine. It's a little different than our normal.
I know.
Like you're pouring it out of your cup.
Well,
It's going glug, 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 glug.
well, it's because there's always an empty piece at the very top of the.
And drink it.
It sounds like you're like dumping it. And instead of like pouring it, it's like taking the
There we
bottle and doing it like that.
Chug, 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 chug.
Not chugging it. Because you want to hear the
So
bottle.
I took the cup after supper, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this as often as you drink it in remembrance of me." So when we drink the wine or grape juice or eat the bread, we remember Jesus' sacrifice to us when he died on the cross.
Why is mommy not having anything?
She has some of mine.
Mommy, why are you having anything?
That's messed up.
Yeah, she doesn't. I don't pour her own cup. She just have a little bit. So this is kind of bitter.
And this one.
There we go. But not bad. All right. For as often as you eat this bread and drink the cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes. So, like I said, we're remembering Jesus' sacrifice on the cross for us.
Every last Monday in the month.
Yes.
No, please. That was an accident.
Okay. And that comes to us from 1 Corinthians 11,
Ow.
23 through 26. Now, one thing I'm going to put out there, a lot of churches do a Christmas Eve service.
Ooh.
Christmas Eve this year will be on a Friday, and I was wondering if we might be able to do a Christmas Eve service this year in addition to the normal service that week. It would depend on if you're working, but do you normally work on Fridays?
Usually I don't.
Will be fun.
Sweetie,
Well, not crappy.
come on.
No, she's fine.
Okay.
Right?
All right. So we'll keep everybody posted on a possible Christmas Eve service. I'm figuring more than likely if we go to do one, it'll be earlier on, possibly like before lunch, so that we have the rest of the day, to do stuff afterwards.
School on Friday.
Not on.
Oh wait,
Christmas
not on Christmas Eve. That's winter break. What?
When I was going to school, they called it Christmas break.
Yeah,
That's what I call it, Christmas break.
it's just
Because-
winter break.
It's kind of interesting because it falls in when Christmas is. All right. We are going to be reading through Genesis chapter 4, verses 1 through 7. Richard, can you take that cup from him? Genesis 4, 1 through 7.
Yeah, but
All right. Genesis 4,
oh yeah, sure.
1 through 7.
Okay.
And
It's time for
Genesis 4.
Paul.
Now Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, saying, I have gotten a man with the help of the Lord. And again she bore his brother Abel. Now Abel was a keeper of sheep, and Cain a worker of the ground. In the course of time, Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground. And Abel also brought of the firstborn of his flock and of their fat portions. And the Lord had regard for Abel and his offering, but for Cain and his offering he had no regard. So Cain was very angry, and his face fell. The Lord said to Cain, Why are you angry? And why has your face fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is for you, but you must rule over it.
Okay. So, we will learn a little bit about the first two brothers in history.
Ah.
Let's see. There's the slide.
Yay.
All right. So the first thing it says is Adam knew his wife Eve, and whenever the Bible says that a man knew a woman, it's another one of those euphemisms for they got together and they made a baby. So sometimes it says
I do.
Yeah.
You're dinner, make a baby.
well, that's a story for another time. But when the Bible says that Adam knew Eve, they got together and they made a little Cain and a little Abel. So,
A Cain.
no, that was one of the brothers' names.
Oh.
Okay. Now, last time we talked about an important passage, Genesis 3:15. That was the very first mention of the gospel, where God promises to Eve, "You're going to have a descendant at some point that is going to get into a battle with the serpent." You should remember this was called the Proto-Evangelium, and it was Genesis 3:15. And the question is that a lot of people have is, did Adam and Eve understand what was being said to them when God promised, from you, you're going to have an offspring that's going to battle with the serpent's offspring? And now the Genesis 3:15 was, I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your offspring and her offspring. And it's the first mention of Jesus coming and redeeming mankind. Now, I say that they kind of did understand what was being said to them. Adam and Eve kind of knew what was happening, that something was important, because when Cain was born, Eve says, I have gotten a man with the help of the Lord. Eve thought that the prophecy that God said in 3:15 was supposed to be fulfilled immediately. So she took her having a son as the fulfillment of this prophecy. But we know that it's not, that it's going to be Jesus. Jesus came and dealt a death blow to the serpent. Now, in this passage here, the only children of Adam and Eve that it mentions are Cain and Abel. Now, are these the only children of Adam and Eve?
No.
No. What actually is happening here is in Middle Eastern culture, they had something that they called primogeniture, which those of us who have played Crusader Kings know what that is. And it is where the first son, the oldest son, is the one that gets all of the birthright and all of the best things in life. He gets, he gets an easy path. He's going to inherit all the land. He's going to get the business. He's going to get the house, and everybody else is going to be left to fend for themselves. And that's why this little passage here, no, stay in your bed, dog. That's why this passage here focuses on Cain and Abel, because we get to see what God's view of primogeniture is all about. It's a focus because of their culture. Now, Adam, if you think about it, was the very first man. There was high expectations. He was guaranteed all the rights and inheritance and to benefit from everything that God had given him. He was the firstborn. He was God's primogeniture designated successor. And then here comes Cain. Cain is Adam's first son. There are high expectations. He's guaranteed certain rights and inheritance. He is the firstborn. But there is a Bible verse later on when they chose David to become the king of Israel over Saul. Saul, who was very tall and good looking and looked like he would be a king, we're told that God doesn't look at what man looks at. It's not the firstborn, the one with the high expectations, with the birthrights and the inheritance. God looks at inside, at where your heart is and where he knows you're going to be. So here we are. We have another time lapse. We don't know how much time has gone past between when Cain and Abel are born until we learn about the things that they do for a living. My dog is walking around in circles. Okay, she's laying down. We don't know how much time has passed from when Cain and Abel are born until when they get their eventual work and what they do for a living. But back here in the book of Genesis, people lived longer. Now we're going to have another lesson where I'm going to kind of explain to you how long longer is. But there are some people that when they hear about Cain and Abel, and in one verse it says that Cain and Abel are born, and then the next verse it says they're out in the fields working, that they must be teenagers, and that's probably not what's going on here. We think they're grown-ups. They probably have families of their own by now, and they have their jobs, they're supporting their families, but they're not teenagers. Why did it go backwards? Okay. Now, the occupations. That was a word I was trying to come up with, and I couldn't. Cain follows in his father's footsteps. Adam worked the ground and was a farmer, and so was Cain. Abel was a shepherd and tended the sheep. Now, here's a hint to you. Whatever the Bible talks about shepherds, it's one of God's favorite metaphors for people that are under his protection. The Lord loves shepherds. David was a shepherd and became the king. The Christian church, God talks about how he is the shepherd and we are his sheep. So whenever you have this metaphor in the Bible, you know that this person is favored. Just a little hint I'm going to throw out to you. Now, and they decide to have an offering and take an offering to God. It's not a sin offering. They didn't do anything wrong. They're not trying to atone for their sin. Later on in the book of Leviticus, it describes exactly what you have to do to atone for your sin. This is a harvest offering. The fruits of everything that they've done for the year, they're going to offer some of it up to God. There's gladness here. They're happy. They're sharing with God, but it's still a sacrifice. Whenever there is a sacrifice, you have to give something up that's important to you. We talked about how when Adam and Eve made the first set of clothes and animals had to die for it to make those skins, that it was a sacrifice. There had to be something that died. And now in this sacrifice, it's not exactly about death, but it's about giving something that's important to you to God. Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground. Abel brought of the firstborn of his flock and of the fat and of their fat portions. Basically, what this is saying is Cain brings some of his crops, and Abel sacrifices his firstborn and the fat, the best of his herd. So Cain just looks out and he goes, "Well, I have this big harvest here." I said, I'll give him some of this and some of this and some of this, but he doesn't pick the best, the best, the best. Whereas Abel goes and goes, "Wow, I'm going to take the firstborn sheep, which is normally the strongest and the best, and the fat portions and the best that I have, and instead of taking it for myself, I'm going to give it to God." God accepts Abel's sacrifice, but not Cain. In Genesis here, there is no reason stated. Is it favoritism? God thought, well, I like Abel better than Cain. Is it unfairness? Is it, God, like I said, with a favoritism thing, just choosing, well, I like Abel's sheep better than Cain's fruit.
Cable sheep.
Yeah. Or, as many times you find in the Greek and Roman gods, or any god that has pantheons, they're fickle. They just choose what they want to choose. Is it God just going, eeny, meeny, miny, Abel? No. No, that's not what's going on here. Now, some scholars will tell you that God chose Abel's sacrifice and that it is better because Abel sacrificed and there was blood. Because an animal died for it. And I'm going to tell you that that's not right.
No.
That is not why Abel's sacrifice was chosen over Cain's. The reason that his sacrifice is Cain's sacrifice is superficial. It's not sincere. He just looked through his crops, says, I'm going to give him some of this and this and this and this. It doesn't say that he gave God the best. It just said he brought him an offering, some of it. Jesus and the Pharisees later on, when Jesus was alive, talk about giving, and the Pharisees made a big show out of giving their money, but Jesus looks at him and says, "You see that woman over there that had almost nothing, and all she had was this little coin, and she gave most of it to God? She doesn't get any fanfare, but she gave more in giving up most of what she owned than you do when you give all this stuff, but you have plenty and plenty and more." And that's how offerings work. Cain is the firstborn. He thought that the acceptance of his sacrifice was guaranteed. He didn't really try. All he did was, well, I have this harvest here, and I'm just going to give God little bits and pieces of it, but I'm not going to give him the best because I'm the firstborn, and that's the type of culture that I live in.
That's not how it works.
No, it's not. So he doesn't try, and now it says that Cain is jealous. Jealousy is a very, very, very dangerous thing.
Yes.
Now God looks at Cain. He says, if you do well, will you not be accepted? Don't have a pity party. Cain, take responsibility for what you did. Go out and do better. Make an actual sacrifice. Take the best crops that you have and give them to me, not just what you think you feel is a piece of what you've harvested. And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door. Here's the warning, Cain. Don't get lazy. If you don't go out and correct this and try to do better and not just think that you're going to be accepted because you're the firstborn and you're high and mighty, sin is crouching at the door. Now, sin is interesting because remember the serpent and Eve. Serpent looks at Eve and goes, will you surely die? And not immediately, but sin equals death. Now here, later on in Romans, we read, for the wages of sin is death. When you live in sin, you don't have Jesus in your life, you're going to die in sin. You're not going to have eternal life with Jesus. And it goes all the way back here to Cain. He thought that he was just going to be accepted, and he was jealous. Genesis 4, chapter 4, 8 through 12.
Oh.
8 through 12. Click here. A little bit of here. 8 through. Nope.
Yeah, I'm going.
12. There we go.
Much better.
Cain spoke to Abel, his brother. And when they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, where is Abel your brother? He said, I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? And the Lord said, what have you done? The voice of your brother's blood is crying to me from the ground. And now you are cursed from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it shall no longer yield to you its strength. You shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth.
Good catch. All right. Am I my brother's keeper? I am my brother's keeper.
No.
So this is pretty straightforward. We know exactly what happens here. Cain was jealous, thought that his sacrifice should have automatically been accepted because he was the firstborn. He had the birthright. He had the inheritance. He was, the favored son. And God doesn't look at that. He looks at what's in your heart. Abel gave the better sacrifice because he put his heart, soul, and love into it. And then Cain becomes jealous and murders his brother, Abel. Cain murders Abel. All right, Hannah?
No.
Okay, you don't like murder. Got it.
No.
There were some warnings. We knew that this was coming. In the garden, God looks at Adam and Eve and says, don't eat of that tree. It's going to give you knowledge. And when you eat from the tree of knowledge, you will surely die. And Adam and Eve went and they ate from the tree of knowledge. And now death has entered in the picture. Cain, his warning was his pride and his jealousy. God says, listen, the sin is crouching right at your door. Go and fix this and you'll be okay. But Cain decides to take a different route. He's going to let his jealousy and sin take over. Yes, Adam and Eve, their big sin was disobeying. But another sin that Adam and Eve had was jealousy. They looked at the fruit. They saw that it looked good. And it says that they desired to be wise. They were jealous of God's knowledge. So Adam and Eve wanted to become like God. And the serpent who they had no reason to trust him, no reason to listen to him. He comes out of nowhere, and they just believe him. Pardon my French here, but all hell breaks loose. See?
Daddy.
Well, the serpent,
No, bad.
they wanted to be wise like him. It was jealousy. Adam and Eve, now a lot of people portray Adam and Eve as naive little toddlers who didn't know anything and had no knowledge in the world at all. But by the time that the serpent came around and talked to them, they were adults. They were in charge of the entire world and all the animals in it. And they were in charge of keeping the garden. They weren't just little children. Adam and Eve had a moral compass. They knew the difference between right and wrong. They just didn't have the experience of God's knowledge. And a lot of people confuse knowledge and experience. Adam and Eve knew what good and evil was, but they just never experienced evil. After Adam's sin, when he eats of the fruit and God sees him, Adam has regret and remorse. He says, I was ashamed and I noticed that I was naked, so I hid from you. He felt that every time I say the word naked. Yeah. Feels like I have a naive little... Anyway.
No, naked means you're going to the bathtub. There.
Naked like a little jaybird, right? Adam felt bad. Adam sins and he's like, wait a minute, whoa. I don't feel right here. This isn't good. I ran, I hid from God. Now Cain, on the other hand, he has lived in sin his entire life. God looks at Cain and goes, well, where is Abel, your brother? He did the same thing to Adam and Eve. He goes, where are you? God knew where they were. He knew what Cain had done. Cain says, I don't know where my brother is. Am I my brother's keeper? Cain, the sin takes hold of Cain. There's lying, and he doesn't care about his family. Actually, Cain, you are your brother's keeper. You're supposed to care for all of your siblings and your family. There's supposed to be a strong family bond. Cain doesn't have that. Cain doesn't have regret or remorse. So here, just one generation removed from when sin entered the world, we see sin snowballing straight into death. Sin has gone out of control already, and we're only one generation into when sin enters perfection. You see the consequences of sin, here they are. In Judaism, God looks at Cain and says, your brother's blood cries out to me. In Judaism, blood is sacred. They have very special ways to treat blood. If you get blood on you, if you sacrifice an animal, what you're supposed to do with its blood, not supposed to drink it. Don't drink it. No, don't drink it. And Cain receives a similar curse to Adam. And he says, forever you will be a wanderer. Now remember this term. Forever, Cain, you will be a wanderer. Genesis 4, 13 through 16. We'll listen to the rest of this piece here.
I don't share it.
Brother's keeper.
Totally.
All right.
Cain said to the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, you have driven me today away from the ground, and from your face I shall be hidden. I shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. Then the Lord said to him, not so. If anyone kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord put a mark on Cain, lest any who found him should attack him. Then Cain went away from the presence of the Lord, and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden.
So land of Nod, east of Eden. Okay. So, let's see. I'm going to wonder if anybody else caught this. But we'll get there. My punishment is greater than I can bear. So God says, you know what? I'm going to kick you out from where you live now, which, if we're judging by they left Eden, whenever it talked about Eden, it talked about Eden being east. So from Israel, Eden was east of there. So they were probably living west of. So at this point, they're living west of Eden. So Baghdad, Iraq, Fertile Crescent. All right, and Cain says, "My punishment is greater than I can bear." God says, "I'm going to take. You're not going to be a gardener anymore. You're not going to be able to work the ground. It's not going to give you anything. You killed your brother." And Cain, instead of feeling bad for what he did, he becomes selfish. He says, "Oh, you're my poor me. My punishment is greater than I can bear." Well, Cain, your brother's dead. You killed somebody. To me, that's not going far enough, if you ask me. Don't do the crime if you can't do the time. I think that Cain's punishment is lenient. He got to live. He gets to go and carry on with his life. Actual justice would be you take a life, your life is taken. And that's not what God imposes on Cain here. Cain worries about himself, says he is driven away from the ground. I'm not going to be able to eat anything. I'm not going to be able to do what I like and garden anymore. But remember, he's a murderer. He just killed his brother. He's worried about himself and what's going to happen to him. Very selfish. Very, very selfish. Then he adds, "And from your face I shall be hidden." Now, in God's punishment on Cain, God never says, "Get out of here, I don't ever want to see you again." God says, "Leave. You're not going to be able to work the ground. You're not going to be able to get your crops." But he doesn't say, "I don't ever want to see you again." Cain is shamed because he's not going to be able to do what he likes to do. And he goes, "Well, I'm just going to hide from you for the rest of my life." And Cain leaves God's presence. A little extreme, if you ask me. Proof that there were not only two children. Cain says, "Whoever finds me will kill me." So some time has passed. And as we will see, people in this time lived a very long time in their lives. So there are generations upon generations of other people living, and they're all related very closely, and they would have known Abel, and they would have known that Cain is a murderer. So although they're related to Cain, they're going to want to take vengeance for what Cain did to Abel. And Cain says, "Well, whoever finds me will kill me." And God says, "Well, enough with the bloodshed." Cain didn't care about Abel or what he had done to Abel's life. Cain worried about himself. You see here some of the most selfish pieces that we've seen what sin does to you. You care about yourself. He didn't care that he had killed his brother because he was jealous. He cared that, oh no, I'm not going to be able to farm anymore, and somebody might find me and kill me. God shows Cain mercy. Did Cain deserve it? No, not one bit. Cain is a selfish psychopath that murdered his brother because he got told no. He was a selfish little baby. He receives a mark on him. God says, "I will put a mark on you, and if anybody finds you, they won't be able to kill you." Some people say that the mark that Cain received was his skin was turned completely black, and that's where darker skinned people came from. No, that's absolute nonsense. That's not a visual mark that Cain would have received would have been like a flaming piece of fire over his head, like we saw in other scriptures. Don't buy into the stuff where this is where different races of people were made. God says that, and now you have this mark on you, it's going to keep you safe. Anybody that tries to kill you is going to be avenged sevenfold. Not the band. There's nothing to do with the rock band, Avenged Sevenfold. But what this is a promise to Cain that God would keep him alive and let him live. God here is showing extreme mercy. Cain, the psychopathic murderer who killed his brother because he's jealous, gets to live. You know, in justice would have been no. And it says that Cain goes to Nod, the land of Nod, which is east of Eden. Now, in Hebrew, Nod means wander around. So the land of wandering. East of Eden, so if you go into the Persian Gulf and you go east, you're in the Iranian desert mountains. So it's barren wasteland. There's nothing there. And Cain is wandering around out there. Just, you know, wandering through life. And we will almost done here, so stay with me. Genesis 4:17 through 22. We'll learn about the descendants of Cain. So Cain leaves wherever they were living and he goes east to the land of wandering, and he has his own descendants and his own family. Okay.
Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch. When he built a city, he called the name of the city after the name of his son, Enoch. To Enoch was born Irad, and Irad fathered Mahujael, and Mahujael fathered Methushael, and Methushael fathered Lamech. And Lamech took 2 wives. The name of the one was Adah, and the name of the other Zillah. Adah bore Jabal. He was the father of those who dwell in tents and have livestock. His brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all those who play the lyre and pipe. Zillah also bore Tubal-Cain. He was the forger of all instruments of bronze and iron. The sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah.
Okay. Now, if we were in my first semester Old Testament Bible study class, you'd have to remember what all those names were and what they mean, but they're not really that important. I'll let you in on a secret. They don't really, you're not gonna, they don't mean anything to us. Cain's wife. Now here it says that Cain knew, or makes more generations of little Cains with his wife. It's more than likely his sister or his niece. Now remember, we're here early on. Everybody is descended from Adam and Eve. They're all very closely related. Cain didn't, some people take this as Cain went to the land of Nod, found another whole human race, and started intermarrying with them. That's not what happens here. Very, very, very early on, in order to populate the world, you needed to get to have, you know, relations with your brothers, your sisters, your aunts, your uncles, your nieces, to further humanity. You're building the population of the earth. Now remember, at this point, we're closer to perfect. What it was in Eden, everybody's genetics would not have been deformed through for any reasons at this point. Everybody was very healthy. They lived very, very long amounts of time. Sickness hadn't really entered into the picture yet. They were just building the human race. And it wasn't until 2,000 years after this that God puts restrictions on, you know what? You shouldn't be marrying your brother or sister anymore. And that comes later on in the Bible. In Leviticus also, there's laws about don't marry your aunt and your sister or your daughter or stuff like that. Those are all in there, and then I remember when I was your age reading through those and giggling because they just sounded ridiculous to me. But at that point in history, people were still used to being close to the family members that they were marrying. Like I said, Cain didn't go to Nod to find a wife and another race of people. He went there to build a city. He was already married, and his son Enoch was already born. So he goes to Nod and he's wandering around. He builds a city, names it after his son. There's a bunch of strange names here that you're never going to use again in your life unless you want to go on to Jeopardy for some reason. But here, we are only 6 generations removed from Adam, and sin brings us to this character named Lamech. And this name is very interesting in his story. For them to be reading through one of these generational things and to stop and give you a story about somebody, it's important. Now, Lamech, right before him came everybody that was a herder, the father of all the musicians and all the bronze and ironsmiths, Tubal Cain and Jubal and Jabal and all this stuff. And they're all related to this Lamech. But here we meet Lamech, and this is the first person that it mentions that he has 2 wives. Now, this type of relationship in the Bible is never expressly or explicitly forbidden. Never once in the Bible does it say, you shall not take for yourself 2 wives. I don't recommend it. I have enough, everybody, there's enough in your life if you only have 1 man and 1 woman. Okay, stop for a second. Have your conversation so you're not... Oh, your mother needs her boots. Okay. Not those, Richard.
Those are
Go over there.
mine.
Go over there and get... They're kind of bigger and brown. Okay. The point I'm trying to make is a lot of people read through here and they get to Lamech and they find that he has 2 wives and everybody goes, wow. There must be some kind of law against having 2 wives. And the Bible never expressly forbids it. There's never a Bible scripture that says you shall not take 2 wives. What it does say is the reason that a man and a woman should get married and be with each other is because that's what God intended. So God intended there to be 1 man, 1 woman marriage and be with each other. But here we meet Lamech. And any time in the Bible we find somebody that has 2 wives, there's always trouble. It's guaranteed. You find somebody that has 2 wives, there's always going to be something that goes wrong. And we're going to close out this chapter with this little piece on Lamech.
Yeah.
Not a nice guy. He's not a very nice guy at all. Okay. Lamech is this one.
Yeah.
Did I share it?
Yep,
I
you
did.
did.
I shared it? Okay. You ready?
Lamech said to his wives, Adah and Zillah, hear my voice. You wives of Lamech, listen to what I say. I have killed a man for wounding me, a young man for striking me. If Cain's revenge is 7-fold, then Lamech's is 77-fold. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son, and called his name Seth, for she said, God has appointed for me another offspring instead of Abel, for Cain killed him. To Seth also a son was born, and he called his name Enosh. At that time people began to call upon the name of the Lord.
Okay.
Genesis 4.
No. Silly. Okay. So, this little piece about Lamech here. He has 2 wives, and he's not a nice guy at all. Lamech is pure evil. I have killed a man for wounding me, a young man for striking me. So he goes from Cain, who kills his brother over being jealous to just killing because he feels like it. He's boastful about it. He doesn't show any mercy. He's not merciful at all. Now, the reason that God protected Cain, even though Cain was what he wasn't a good person either. God protected Cain because he wanted to show Cain that there was mercy in the world. Lamech was looking to kill people. So here we have a murderer. And it goes back and we learn about Seth. Now, we know that Seth isn't the third son. But what we're doing here is the genealogy here is giving us, we're going to learn about Adam's descendants, not through Cain. We learned about those people. They're evil. We got to Lamech and they're murderers. We're going to learn about Adam's descendants through Seth and follow that line, because it says at the end of Seth, he has a son, and people started to call on the name of the Lord. We have another branch of family to follow, and they're starting to do the right thing.
That's the end.
Yes, it is. Now, I just wanted to say quickly about, I know Christmas is coming soon. I was really excited about maybe throwing in a traditional Christmas hymn at the end here. And as I was looking through my entire library of Christmas music, either it took the Christmas songs I knew and played them like they were a funeral dirge, and they were so slow I couldn't stand it, or it was some country singer singing them, and I don't remember sitting around my tree with a country twang, playing with a guitar and doing that. So to me, I didn't like any of the ways they were representing these Christmas hymns. Maybe eventually, maybe for the Christmas Eve service, I'll be able to get the camera over there and play them on the piano myself and do them the way that I like to do them, so that I can share the Christmas hymns the way that I enjoy them. But until then, we have to go with what we have. I will share you a short chorus called I Love You, Lord. So, let's see.
You want to sing this song?
Let's see. It's very simple. It's a very, very simple song. All right, let me go back here. This, where are you? Over there. You ready?
It's time to do this.
That is quiet. I'm sure that sounds good in the microphone.
I love you, and I live my voice to worship you. Oh, my soul, rejoice. Take joy, my King, in what you give. Let it be a sweet, sweet sound in your ear.
Now you know the whole song.
I love you, and I lift my voice to worship you. Oh, my soul, rejoice. Take joy, my King, in what I love you, Lord, and I lift my voice to worship you. Oh, my soul, rejoice. Take joy, my King, in what you hear. Let me a sweet, sweet sound in your
All right. We okay. Here we are at the end of the lesson. I hope that we are building a nice, firm foundation for Genesis, so that when people come to you and try to discredit the Bible with things like, "Well, the Earth is billions and billions of years old," you can say, "No, it's not. No, it was built in 6 days. God rested on the seventh." And when people try to say to you things like, "Well, there could not have been all these people that came from Adam and Eve because they would have all been related, and the Bible says you can't, get married to the people that are your brothers and sisters." Well, like I said, that restriction comes later. When you're building the world, you have to take some liberties with it. And these are a lot of things that are taught in Genesis that aren't taught enough in the world. It's 4:37. I thank you for staying with us. I hope you all have a great week.
And bye. And bye.